This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing Lisa, Chief Revenue Officer of Halo Therapy, that we're going to bring into the mix here. Now, the word halo actually comes from the Latin word of salt. So we are creating the halo sector, health, active, lifestyle, outdoor, and Lisa is focused on the salt side. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I have a past relationship, current relationship, and future relationship with Steve Spiro, the CEO of Global Halo Therapy. And Lisa's up in Boston. She's sitting in her clear light, could be a higher dose, but it's not, infrared sauna that has salt in it from Global Halo Therapy. So thank you for not only coming on the podcast, but actually being locationally relevant in your own workout recovery sauna.
I try to practice what I preach.
That's great. I'm sorry we started a couple of minutes late, but feel free to sweat as much as you want because we are on audio.
Okay, fantastic.
Give us your background on how you got to this awesome spot of helping people feel better and infusing salt therapy into their daily routines.
So I started with a background in pharmaceutical sales, and I was a lead exec rep with Merck and Company for about 10 plus years in respiratory. From there, I took a buyout, decided to open my own medical spa and shift over into the wellness area, which I loved and never looked back from pharma, but it was nice having perspective, both from, a pharmaceutical side and a more all natural wellness side. It's from there, I owned my facility for almost 5 years. I met Steve pretty much at the onset. And that's how I was brought to Halo Therapy Solutions. I was a consultant and eventually came on full-time in sales and now worked my way up to the Chief Revenue Officer position. I've been with the company for about 10 years.
Great. How much harder is it to sell products to doctors versus trying to sell workout recovery solutions to health club operators or spas? Or is it about the same?
No, I would say it's much easier to sell wonderful wellness equipment to the private sector and the B2B sector. Everybody's happy. They're excited to be talking to you. Doctors love doctors, but they have a certain arrogance and they're bombarded with a lot of pharma reps at the time. And it was just harder to get headspace.
If you look back 10 years ago and you start talking about halo therapy, 10 years ago, infrared saunas, LED technology, where are we now today versus if that was, let's say, the first inning of a baseball game, versus the ninth inning? Where are we now? How much progress have we made? And how much are you still surprised when someone's like, oh, I never heard of that?
I actually use that term where I'm like, how do you not know about Halo Therapy Solutions? But I can tell you, having gotten into the industry about a decade ago, a little bit more perhaps, with my respiratory background, I was so excited, so drawn to salt. I talked about it all the time. And I can tell you one thing that hasn't changed. So when you're talking about salt therapy, people want it. But like you said, they don't always know what it is. Fast forward where we are today in this, the evolution of salt therapy, people understand a lot more. And then COVID hit, and it was like a tremendous accelerant for people's focus on respiratory health and overall immune health. So we have seen a tremendous uptick in the business. And again, when you're talking about it, people want it and they don't always know. And when they do, it's an easy sell. So.
Gotcha. We spend most of our time, Dave and I, in Integrity Square, focus on bricks and mortar health clubs, franchisors, franchisees, area developers. Some of the largest groups in the country, I am absolutely shocked that they don't have a salt cave in their fitness studio for people to go in pre and post workout, because it really does dries up your entire respiratory system. I mean, I used to do Soul Cycle, daily. And I went to a salt room one time before a Soul Cycle, and I literally I signed up for the next class because my respiratory system was so ready to go. I felt like it was like the cleanest engine in the world for that day. And I woke up, drooling the next day because I got such a good sleep afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked that cycling studios don't have hey, here's our our salt room, and here's our Normatec compression boots at the end, and bookend me with a workout like a pre-workout in
Right.
the cave, salt cave, the workout, and then the post-workout. So how has that kind of evolved into the return on investment on this is like it's a no-brainer.
It is a
But
no-brainer.
like
Yeah.
why aren't people like jumping on this as quickly, or are you seeing like tea leaves of like, hey,
Oh,
there's
no,
some
they are.
spas that are really like moving this, and there's places
Oh,
that have opened that I'm like really excited about.
massively. We started a pilot with Anytime Fitness this year. A second um, group from Anytime Fitness is we just talked about starting another pilot with them with the Halo Sauna. We're talking with all kinds of people. We have Equinox, World Gym, the Covery. I mean, we are partnered with so many amazing fitnesses, gyms, and wellness. Woodhouse Day Spas are, one of our top national
Sure.
chains. Spavi is another one. So I think we have the best partners in the industry, bar none. And it's the only way to address respiratory health in an all natural way. And like you said, what salt therapy does is it gets down into those small airways and draws out all that moisture, mucus, and impurity. It kills anything in the airway and it helps with inflammation throughout the airway. So it's an all natural approach to healing. It started about 185 years ago, but it's backed by about 50 years of science published in the New England Journal of Medicine. So you hit that sweet spot for folks that are looking for an all natural approach to recovery and healing and respiratory health and skin health. I could go on because salt's medicinal benefits are just tremendous. And then you add to it that has a calming effect.
Mm-hmm.
And people it's an aura cleanse and a grounding effect. So it has lots of different ways that it helps folks to improve like their whole well-being. And then more specifically, athletes with a better oxygen exchange and helping to strengthen that abdominal wall. And then what we do, so you mentioned salt rooms, we sort of the industry moved away from salt rooms and caves. And really where it's at now is stacked modalities. So like the sauna that I'm in, we stack it with red light, we stack it with salt therapy, and of course the infrared heat, maximizing the footprint, maximizing the return on investment for one of these facilities.
So one of the things that's kind of shocked me about workout recovery that already happens in like personal training or group training is that there's a routine and there's like a sequence to everything that goes on. You take a soul cycle class, there's a certain amount of songs, there's a warm up, there's a weight exercise, there's a cool down, so on and so forth. There's a stretch. Same thing with like yoga. You'd say like there's a progression, Pilates, so on and so forth. Have you seen groups out there that say, okay, you can sit in the salt room right now that you're in. That's also an infrared sauna. You can put an LED light on. Okay, it's like the trifecta of like
Exactly.
return on time. However, if I'm doing a certain amount of workouts and I'm trying to become, I'm training for cycling or a 5K or 10K or whatever I'm training for, you should really do like a cold plunge in the morning. You should do like the infrared in the afternoon. You should do a salt room like every day. You should do, Normatec, before, after you work out. I feel like that there's like a lack of a prescription or
Yeah.
people knowing like, hey, here's my education. Here's like what you
Yep.
should do and when you should do it. And if you actually do it in a different sequence, it doesn't work. I feel like no one really has like clearly articulated to me like, hey man, if you do an infrared sauna and then you do a cold plunge, like you might as well have done nothing because it basically just,
Right.
like eradicated like the benefit of both. I don't even know the answer to that. I should.
Right.
I'm
A
kind of
cold, hot,
embarrassed.
cold.
Hey, cut the video, cut the audio. Like I don't know the answer to this. No. So what's the answer to that? Like, why hasn't
So
somebody come out with
contrast
that?
therapy is huge. And, again, one of the, I guess, positive things that came out of COVID is people really being focused on their immune health and realizing that self-care is essential and they need to fortify their bodies and they need to, and then coupled with like gyms offering all this amazing, training and workouts and all this great equipment, but not really having a recovery arm, which does everybody a disservice because now they're prone to injury. They can't get back in the gym fast enough. Like you said, it's like a complete misunderstanding of how these modalities are best used or stacked. So that's been a little bit of a gap And I
Hmm.
think it's starting to close a little bit because people are recognizing that, it's an important and essential piece of the workout program.
Hmm.
So the World Halotherapy Association is, I'm the president of that association. And that's one of the things I'm doing right now is all of this training on all the different modalities that exist, coupled with the different ways that you would want to potentially use it based on the needs of the guest or the member. So a little shameless plug for the World Halotherapy Association, which is
I
still
mean,
under
I was going to plug it
construction.
for you. I was going to plug it
Okay,
anyway.
you can do
So,
that
like, if
too.
you want to front run me, that's cool. I'm good with it. So as you look at, maybe without naming the actual client account, the thing that I think about sometimes is I'll go into a club or I'll go into a sauna and they'll have like, you know, one infrared sauna, they'll have like two Normatechs, they'll have, maybe like a really small salt room. When you go in, or can you give us an example of someone's like, hey, I went in there just to have them like set up like this really small workout recovery area just to like prime them on it, get them used to it. But they actually came back and now it's like X thousands of square feet. Can you give us an example of that? Or
Oh,
like,
of where that's happened?
yeah, where it's like you like, hey, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna try and have them like, like kind of walk their way into recovery, and they're like, wow, like this is now, 5,000 square feet, and it's got a salt room, and it's got this in it, and it's got, they kind of totally bought into the whole recovery instead of just saying like, yeah, I'm gonna take the small room, the sales room, I'm gonna like test this out.
Yeah, so that's a good example. I mean, I don't have because recovery doesn't require a massive amount of space necessarily if you have the right equipment. And
Right.
so one of the huge benefits is it's just being able to take a small, let's say 40 by 48 inches, 4 foot by 4 foot space, and then stack or layer your infrared heat, which works on pain management, weight loss, muscle recovery, lots of great things, cleaning out the cells. And then you also have your salt therapy, which of course is a complete detox of the skin and the lungs. You can add red light therapy. We have a halo red that has been tremendously popular. That's what we started with down in Florida with Anytime Fitness. Is that halo red? It's a small footprint, and you don't even have to dedicate a room to it necessarily. So it's full red light immersion. It's patented, and you're getting so much recovery in the form of that small space. So I don't really have a great example of who has had an expansive sort of uh, space taking in lots of equipment, because really we have a sauna and we have a halo red, which is the red light and salt. We do build outs in the form of salt caves. It's just not where the industry's going. The return on investment isn't as good. We do a lot with IV therapy groups as well, and they prefer a smaller build out with, like, say 2 to 4 loungers, where they'll include, sound therapy, and then these loungers, they do the drip. So people are really getting into this concept of layering these different modalities in smaller spaces
Hmm.
to to maximize their return on investment and really recovery. So you don't need a lot of space for recovery.
Well, I actually bought a couple of Halo pockets, so I've got the self use
Did Steve
halotherapy
give you the
machine.
CBD salt that
Yeah,
goes
I
with
got
that?
I got the CBD salt as well. Yeah, that was sent under separate postage,
Okay, all
and
right.
it was written down in hand. So I was like, I want to make sure who sent this to me and fact check that back to
No, it's
Spiro.
been highly regarded factory, US based, patented. It's amazing. We're the only company that offers the patented CBD salt,
Hmm.
Halo CBD salt. And I can tell you, I've tried it as well in both my sauna and my pocket. It feels like you just had a glass of wine. It also has amazing benefits for respiratory and skin. And I think it's going to be a game changer in terms of the evolution of the salt therapy industry, and how we're keeping up with what's going on. CBD is a huge industry, and we've now patented a pharma salt with the CBD.
Awesome. From a standpoint of how long you can stay in a salt cave per day, what's the answer to that?
So you can't really OD on salt, which is the good news, especially with our equipment, because it's salt perfect technology. It's not an excessive amount of salt where you're, ingesting some, and some of it's systemically absorbed. Again, a salt cave, not as popular, but I'd say 45 minutes is a sort of a average. If you've got that smaller 2 to 4 lounger room or cave, 30 minutes is best. If you're in a
Gotcha.
halo red, full immersion red light and salt, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, $35, no labor. And like you said, who's not doing that all day, every day?
Exactly. Exactly. And from a standpoint, just so people understand, like the maintenance on this, and in between people using the sauna, just talk about how quickly these, like the cycle time is on being able to
Yeah.
bring people in and out.
Yeah, so with the Halo Red, which is the red light, full red light, patented red light immersion with salt, the most powerful red light on the planet, 4 wavelengths of red. It's unbelievable technology. 15 minutes, and there's no downtime in between. You can put 4 people an hour in, so that's great. Minimal cleanup at the end of the day. You wipe it out. Boom, you're done. You put enough salt in the generator for the entire day, 6 to 8 sessions. So it's very low maintenance. The sauna is a little bit more maintenance because people are going to sweat a little bit. So we always recommend baking soda water solution with paper towels. The end of the session, maybe wipe the wood down. Again, leave the salt inside the environment. It continues to self-clean. The end of the day, you wipe the glass down free from the salt, and you're off, you're off and running. So very little maintenance. Our generators are backed by a lifetime warranty. They're the most user-friendly, virtually maintenance-free, which is why our equipment is the gold standard. And yeah, so it's very easy to offer.
And some of the locations, I know you're doing some beta tests with Anytime, and I know you've been in resorts for a long time.
Yep.
Um, have you gotten any, or have like the operators that you're supplying on these beta tests gotten any feedback from the consumer? Like my review of doing a salt room and then Soul Cycle. I felt like I was like 2x the capacity.
Yeah.
To have you seen things like that, or some of these aha moments? You're like, wow, look, not only did told you they would like it, but like here's some other things that have come out.
So we get tremendous testimonials. Like
Yeah,
people are blown away. Like you're treating more chronic conditions, but people will go in an assault session, whether it's a booth or a room, and they just, it's not a magic bullet where you're going to come out and you're going to like all of a sudden feel transformed. But in some ways you do, because you are, as I said before, you have this sort of grounding effect and aura cleanse from salt. It also is for folks that have congestion. So they're breathing it in their upper airway. It helps with those swollen nasal passages, and it liquefies that mucus. So they're starting to drain, they're breathing a little bit better, and they walk out feeling like, wow, that was crazy. I'm relaxed. I can breathe better. And so we have those testimonials all the time. And then customers love it. Uh, Facility owners are making money with it very easily with minimal labor. So I'm so passionate about salt therapy, and honestly, I eat, sleep, and breathe salt. I mean, really every day, and
right.
have for the past decade. And I can't say enough good things about it, from having done it as a facility owner and also somebody who talks to people every day. And that's where my passion is. I want to talk to people getting into the industry so that they understand why salt, why halotherapy solutions, and why our equipment. And so I'm very passionate about that, because I can speak firsthand why it's amazing from a customer perspective and a facility owner.
Well, I'm glad you came from the pharmaceutical industry, which definitely has, very strong educational foundations on training people that are out there advocating for their products and services, whether that's on a recurring basis or whether it's a one-off. I think the medical industry has definitely proven that I need somebody who knows what they're talking about. I'm going to arm
Right.
them with clinical studies. I'm going to arm them with, you know, everything except that documentary I read on the Purdue Pharmaceuticals. Everyone else sounded like they actually do their job very well,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
educating the sales team properly and incenting them properly. Um, Having come from that background, is there like a quote that you have, or like a way that you think, or like like a corporate sales hat that you kind of wore, but now it's like more of an entrepreneurial sales hat, or
Yeah.
like you wake up every day and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this, and you got like some mantra that you say if it's appropriate, or some words of wisdom to people that start working with you.
So I have a lot of mantras, and 90% of life is showing up is one of my favorites. And that really did come from this pharmaceutical days when we were required to make 8 calls a day, and you're dragging through your day and you're like, oh my gosh, the last thing I want to do is go into that doctor's office and get beat up and
Right.
go try to, back down a gatekeeper, blah, blah, blah. And it was inevitable that I just showed up and that last call. And it always was one of my best calls, and it worked out really great. So I'm very competitive. I'm a D1 athlete, former D1 athlete. I've always had the mindset that you get out of life what you put into it. And I work when the work needs to be done. That's probably my biggest, I don't know, like what I need to improve on is realizing that I have to, sort of balance my life a little bit more, because I love what I do and I can do it 7 days a week if I'm not careful, which isn't good. But no, I think another quote that I really love, and it's one that I connect with this year more than ever, is success is often achieved by those who don't know that failure is inevitable. So what I would say to somebody who's getting into business ownership, it's not for the faint of heart. And you have to be disciplined, and you have to have the stomach for it. And you have to, what I would say to them, aspiring entrepreneurs, drown out the noise. When I started, I took a buyout from a Fortune 500 company. I had a tenured position. My husband thought I was nutso. And I'm like, nope, I got to I can't do this anymore. I'm pivoting. I'm doing this. I have a passion for this. I never looked back. I've never been happier. But the amount of noise that I had to tune out, self-doubt, which you're plagued with when you're thinking of giving up one career and moving into another. So my biggest advice would be believe in yourself, tune out the noise, and put one foot in front of the other and just make it happen.
Well, I'd say welcome to the Halo sector. Feel free to use the word Halo, but obviously you use that like 100 times a day. So we love that what you guys are doing. We've been early advocates of global halotherapy. We're good friends with Steve Fury. He actually went to my summer camp. Granted, it was like probably
Awesome.
10, 15 years earlier than me. So we became fast friends, and we're trying to get as much workout recovery into the mainstream as possible. So thank you for your efforts. Thanks for leaving your cushy job. And thanks for waving the Halo flag. Whether it's for Halo sector or halotherapy, just keep waving.
I appreciate you, Pete. It was awesome being with you today.
Good to see you. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you.